the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue theme of interviews, and we have Mr. Marcelo Balboa with us, who is a very, very well-known figure in US, not football, but soccer, what you call it as soccer. And first of all,
Football, soccer, it's all the above.
yeah. So, so first of all, I would like to thank Marcelo for coming on the show. Like giving his time and like coming during this pretty difficult time for everyone all across the world. And thank you, Marcelo, for coming on the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what have you been doing? Like these days with the pandemic and everything going on.
Well, thanks for having me. I think that it's been difficult for everybody. I've been lucky enough that everybody's healthy, which is important. And in my family, mom and dad have gotten their shot. So, to be honest, very blessed. Throughout the pandemic, I was lucky enough to add an addition to my family, which is my new puppy, a lab named Coda, which has been great. But just been we've been lucky enough. We've been able to train with the academy in small numbers, groups of 10 and under. So we've been able to still continue to training with the players. As of about a few weeks ago, they opened up a little bit more. So now we're able to do full team training with the Colorado Rapids Academy. So we've been just moving and keeping our head above water.
Definitely. And like always like you played in an era where probably the US soccer was not very well developed as it is now today. Was it a difficult decision because soccer is not the primary sport there?
Um, it's never been difficult because you're doing something you love to do. Um, is it as big as it is now? No, but we had to start somewhere, right? So we were the that first generation, second generation, third generation, as you look at it. Um, Kind of the pioneer, I guess you would say, because really soccer wasn't that big when I started with the national team in '88. We were drawing 5,000, 6,000 people at time. People were trying to figure out what the U.S. national team was. We qualified for '90, and soccer had a little bit more of a following once we got the '94 World Cup. Then all of a sudden, people started taking soccer a little bit more serious. And what I mean by that is they started opening their eyes a little bit of what is soccer? What's it about? And it just kind of steamrolled from there, from '90 to '94. What the World Cup brought to the United States, awareness of our sport, the best players in the world here playing all over the United States. And then little by little, it started growing more and more to the point to in '96, MLS started. We have our own league. Now you're 26, 25 seasons into MLS. You're buying young American players are being bought by European teams, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, players like that, Christian Pulisic playing for Chelsea. So you're starting to see a big influx of American players going to Europe. When I played, um, we really didn't have those doors open because there was no one that has really gone over to Europe and played. And little by little, that our generation from Tab Ramos going to Spain, Don Harps going to England. I went to Mexico with also Tab that went to Mexico when Aldo went to Germany. So we started after the '94 World Cup. It started doors started opening for us as American players, but nowhere near nowhere near the doors that are opening now all over the world for American players.
And like you said, like how after the 90 after the World Cup, those kind of opened up for you all across the world, like to move to play. And then again, like for a window, it was not that bright like what it is now. Like you said, like
Yeah.
you have what has made that change come in, like where you have players all over the, or how is US producing so many good talents?
I think you started looking at MLS. MLS opened a lot of doors for guys like Brian McBride, Clint Dempsey, who started in Major League Soccer and all of a sudden took off and went to England, and a bunch of players, And I think now you're starting to see these academies, these younger academies, instead of kids going to college, they're signing homegrown contracts and training 12 months out of the year instead of training 6 months out of the year. So those opportunities to play at a high level against other teams that you're competing with, other MLS teams, other elite academies, and little by little, these kids started developing. They started seeing the European teams started seeing the athleticism and how these kids were developing, and all of a sudden they started taking a chance on one player, then they started taking a chance on another player, and they started paying off. And I think that's important. And take, for instance, a guy like Weston McKennie, who was with the Dallas Academy, then he left, he went to Europe. All of a sudden, he went from Germany to being bought for $22 million by Juventus. Now they picked up their option. Tyler Adams, you look at Aronson, who was at Philadelphia, now who's with the Red Bulls. So the important thing was when the American players got out of MLS and went over to Europe, they were successful. They've been making an impact, not just making the team and getting a few minutes here, a few minutes there. They're actual starters. And that goes a long way for the confidence of coaches. Plus, this league here in the United States, the MLS, is a league that is thriving off younger players, off homegrowns, than 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They're signing them out of their academy. They're playing them. And I think that when you see guys like Aronson, who the Red Bulls picked up because they see the potential that kid has. So again, we look at it as it's a trampoline right now, the MLS, because we're also bringing in young South Americans that are being sold over to Europe. And I think that's, if you look at a guy like Almaron, Paraguayan, who comes into the league, plays a few years, now he's playing for Newcastle in England. So I think it's a trampoline for both ways. South Americans come here to go to Europe. The American players are here also wanting to go to Europe. And it's been very successful over the last 2 years of buying and selling players.
Definitely. Like, although it's too early and it's not good to put pressure, but what is generally the expectations from this young crop of players who are probably playing at the highest level across Europe?
Plain and simple. Plain and simple is, I think it's to start on their team, and when they come back to the United States and play for the U.S. national team, is to qualify for the next World Cup. I don't think you can put an expectation on this group could win a World Cup or this group. Listen, these are young players that are getting some great minutes and great experience over in Europe. Their main goal when they represent the United States is to qualify for the World Cup, something we didn't do in the last cycle. So that's first and foremost, I think, on their mind is qualifying in this World Cup. 2026, different because that means most of these kids, if I think they'll qualify for the next World Cup, that means they'll have one World Cup leading into the World Cup that we're going to have here in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So again, their main objective and their main goal right now is to make sure they qualify for the World Cup in Qatar, and I think they will.
Definitely, definitely. And like we spoke about maybe the United States, how the league has grown. Personally, for you, why football?
For me,
Yeah.
easy. My mom and dad are Argentinian. I grew up watching my dad play. We would watch soccer every Saturday or listen to it on the radio from Argentina. We would listen to River or Boca play. So it was, my dad played professional soccer in Argentina, also played here in the United States. So it was, for me, it was a lifestyle. It was what you see mom and dad. Dad played, we played. Dad watched soccer, we watched soccer. So it's like anywhere else in South America, the number one sport, or anywhere else in the world. Mom and dad have their home teams. They follow their teams with a passion. It's like a religion, and that's what the way it is in Argentina. So when we came here, watching my dad and mom watch the Argentine national team play and how excited they would get when they would score or win a game, it was something that was already in us. So it was easy to pick soccer, but it wasn't easy because soccer, when I was playing and when I was graduating from high school in 95 or in 85, was not a popular sport. No one really knew who the Olympic team was or the national team was. There wasn't a professional league because the NASL folded a while ago. So it wasn't an easy decision, but it was really, and I played a lot of sports. I played basketball, I played baseball, I played football, American football. And the only thing that would allow me to be me, to show my personality, the only one I had a passion for that I wanted to do every day was soccer. So it was an easy decision because it already ran in the blood. And when you have a former professional father player who's a father, it made it very easy to play soccer.
Definitely. And like you were there like when I think before the MLS began and you played in the MLS also.
Yeah.
How was the journey? Like that full journey for you.
You know, we all have a different path to where we get to in life. How hard are you willing to work? Um, you're going to have speed bumps. That's reality in life. Um, but how hard are you willing to persevere over those speed bumps? Are you willing to keep going forward? Are you going to back up? Are you going to find an excuse? What we've come to realize, to get to a certain level, there's no excuses. You have to work hard day in and day out, through injuries, through setbacks of maybe not starting a game or two. The coach doesn't feel that you're in good form, so he puts you on the bench. The mentality is what got me, I believe, to where I'm at today, because it wasn't an easy journey. I went from high school to a junior college because I didn't have the grades to get into a university, a 4-year university. So I played 2 years at a junior college, played in a youth World Cup. From there, I went to San Diego State, started playing with the full national team in '88. And again, having to find a way to make a living after I left college, playing semi-pro here in the United States, to finally the US gave us an opportunity to have full-time contracts in '92 and '93 because they wanted to put the team together, the base of the team together, to train to get ready for '94. So I really didn't play professional soccer. I didn't sign my first contract until I went to play in end of '94 in Leon, Mexico. So we signed contracts with the MLS, or with the U.S. national team and the federation, but it it's not like it was a club team; it was a national team. Um, but I also went to Olympiacos. I played in Greece, and then left. Leon came in and bought my contract, so I went to Leon. So it's not an easy path. I played a lot of years in the APSL, which was the semi-pro league here in the United States, trying to find a way to make a living. So playing in the '94 World Cup opened a lot of people's eyes of what the American players in the '94 World Cup can do at a high level. And I think that opened up a lot of doors for players to start going to Europe, to Mexico, to South America, to play football and to make a living.
Definitely. And you like you said, like probably it was like semi-professional what you were playing in the states before the MLS
Yeah.
and everything happened. How was it financially for you? Was it good in the semi-professional?
Listen, it's not like I had a family. I didn't have to support kids or anything like that. So it was 3 guys, maybe 4 guys in an apartment that the club paid for. You got paid between $500 and $1,000 a game, and that's what we did. That's how we made a living. So, until the U.S. national team came in and gave us contracts, you were making 500 to 1,000, maybe $1,500 a game, uh, playing every week, hoping you don't get hurt. Because if you got hurt, then what I mean, you didn't get paid. But like I said, it was all of these things were learning experiences, made you a little tougher. Um, but at the end of the day, we still got to do what we love to do, and that's play soccer. So really, you just paid for your food and your transportation. Everything else, the apartment was the key thing. Was if you can take care of that, 'cause that's at least $2,000. You're like, okay, if the apartment's taken care of, I can pay my car payment, I can get food, I can save a little bit of money. That was reality back in the late 80s and 90s.
Definitely, like was Leon your first professional club? Like, as in like professional?
Well, I played for the Foxes and I signed a contract with them. So that was a professional contract for us because we didn't go to Europe. I played with the San Francisco Bay Blackhawks. I signed a contract there. But my first contract, if you want to say first professional, would have been the U.S. national team because that was considered a pro team at the time because we lived and practiced every day. From there, it was Olympiacos, and that contract got broken because they had too many foreign players. They couldn't get rid of one of the foreign players. So when that went after a month, that fell through. Leon picked me up, and I signed a full-time contract with Leon, and then came back to MLS and signed with the Colorado Rapids.
So, like, how did Olympiacos happen? Like you said,
Olympiacos, I had quite a few teams throughout the 92 to 94. I had a chance to go to Grasshopper. That didn't work out. I had a chance to go to Colo Colo. The Federation didn't sell me because they wanted us all to live together. I could have gone to Chile and played for Colo Colo at the time. After 95, I had a chance to go play for Boca in Argentina, but we couldn't come to an agreement on payment. So that was kind of the journey through there. Olympiacos came along right after the 94 World Cup. They were looking for a center back. And I went straight, basically, after the 94 World Cup, I got on a plane, flew out to Greece, landed. The next day, we jumped on a plane, went to Yugoslavia to play Red Star. They started me. I played about 80 minutes, wasn't 100% fit after the World Cup. I took a little time off, played around 70, 80 minutes right in there. Once the game was done, the coach liked how I played and what I did and offered me a contract. The only stipulation is they had to get rid of one of the forwards. That was the fourth foreigner. I was the fifth. And Amakachi, if you remember, the Nigerian center forward. He didn't want to play in Greece anymore. He wanted to get traded, but he didn't want to give up his contract. So he wasn't going to play, but he also wasn't going to give up his contract. So they couldn't come to an agreement on what to do to get rid of him. So throughout that month and a half, I was training, waiting for preseason, trying to see what was going to go on. As that situation prolonged itself, an opportunity from Mexico came up for me to go to Mexico and try out for Puebla, which was one of the teams there. So I hopped on a plane. I told them if something changes to let me know because I would have loved to have played in Greece. Went to Puebla, and didn't come to agreement on terms. So left training, went to the hotel, and we got a call from another agent telling me that Leon was looking for a center back. Ruggeri, if you remember, the Argentine center back, was going to play at Leon, decided not to go to Leon. I believe he went to Morelia, and that opened up a spot at Leon. They wanted a center back. Great. Hopped on a plane that day, went to training that afternoon, trained. By that night, the next morning, I had a contract in place for the money we agreed on and signed a contract the next day to play in Leon. Interesting. In soccer is an interesting. It's not always an easy journey, but you got to keep plugging away to get what you want.
like you have said, like I think it's a I mean, like you said some few names like Boca Juniors and all,
Yeah,
Colo
yeah,
Colo, which are like very huge and probably it would have
yeah,
been
yeah.
different story. But I mean, like you had an amazing journey where you went
Oh,
to Olympia.
that's
It was
half of it. They had when we finished the World Cup, a team in Colombia wanted me. I won't say which team, but there was a team in Colombia that wanted me, and there was no way I was going to go to Colombia after we beat Colombia and everything that happened with Escobar. They made it. The federation made it clear that they were not going to sell me to a team in Colombia. So I had a chance to go to Turkey. So I didn't go to Turkey. For me, it was simple. I knew the style of soccer that I could play, and the best formation, tactics, style of play for me was Greece worked out great. I fit in really well there. And then I knew that I could play in Mexico. I knew that the style of play they had, it wasn't a lot of long ball. And I was good in the air. That didn't bother me, but I wanted to play soccer. We played with the national team with Bora. We played out of the back. It wasn't a physical game. And that's, I wanted to get to a point where I can play the soccer that fit my style. And both of them did. I wasn't sure that Greece fit my style. No, not Greece.
Olympiacos.
Turkey and Colombia fit my style.
Okay. And like you said like how the federation didn't sell you. So were you like contracted with the federation as a whole?
We had contracts. We all signed contracts with with U.S. Soccer at the time to live together, train together, almost like a club team, which was unheard of. And they supposedly owned our rights, so they had the right to say yes or no to a contract. So they were our agents basically at the time.
Definitely. Like these are like one more thing I wanted to ask you is like I think like when I might be wrong, but when you played in the MLS that time, I think you had a different style of taking a penalty. Was that unusual? Like I think you had to,
Me,
yeah, no, you had to
I
run from the half.
oh, you're talking about the shootouts.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
first few years of the
yeah, yeah,
shootouts,
yeah, yeah.
it went back to the old NASL days
Yeah.
where you would be, I believe it was 30, 35 yards from goal. You had 5 seconds to get the ball off your foot, and it was a one-on-one against the keeper. So it was a it was interesting because as a penalty taker, I can take a penalty from 11, 12 yards and I can hammer the ball, find a corner. But for a defender, it was not, because if you kept on going past 5, 6, 7, 8, you got to the defenders, and that was not a comfortable situation for a defender running one-on-one with a keeper, because we never get, I mean, it's rare that we get a one-on-one with a keeper. So it was, I'm glad they went back to penalties and ties and no more shootouts.
So like, were you involved in any shootouts like that?
I did a few. I think I did two. Maybe, I believe I missed one, made one, and then they went away. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, they went away.
Definitely. And yeah, so like that was one of the major change like which has taken place, like over the course of the thing. What according to you, how has the game evolved? Like, like you said back in the day you always to like playing out from the back even from the national team.
Yeah.
How has it evolved in game style to
Well, I think it's evolved because of the when I started, there were three owners that owned 10 teams. That's yeah, that the investment wasn't very high. So as the league progressed and more owners started coming in, more owners started investing more. And listen, to be honest, the game changer for this league was when David Beckham came. The David Beckham designated player rule completely changed the landscape of what MLS was going to be about, because before each team had a salary cap, they had to stay under the salary cap. When David Beckham came, you were able to buy a designated player for as much as you want, and he would only count a certain amount on your salary cap. So you were able to go out and get a David Beckham. You were able to go out and buy a Michael Bradley for $6 million, which you couldn't do before, and it only cost you $200,000 on your salary cap. And owners started making an investment on players, so that changed. The more money you started putting into the league and players, all of a sudden the level of competition went up. You started buying these great players. I'm not saying we didn't have great players, because listen, we had Carlos Valderrama, we had Marco Echeverri, we had some pretty good players. You go back to Jorge Campos and Fuegos, you had guys that were pretty big names. Stoichkov, who came into the league. So we still had pretty big name recognition, but fans don't want to see just the American national team players play. They want to see the best players in the world. All of a sudden now you start bringing in Henry, you start bringing in guys like that. Now people are like, okay, so the investment was being made, but you have to make that investment with an older player that's in his 30s. You also have to make that investment with an up and coming young player. And MLS started doing that little by little. Instead of going and buying a Gerard who was close to the end of his career, you go and buy a Barco, who's an Argentinian under 20 player who's playing for Atlanta, who and Almaron, who's a young, talented player, which you have to invest $6 million to make $14 million at the end. And that's the the how the MLS started evolving into a bigger business. Because listen, you have to develop players, and you have to sell players, and you have to buy players in order for this to keep going. And like any league in the world, you buy, you sell, you buy, you sell, you buy low, you sell high. And I think that's what MLS has finally gotten to. They're finally getting to a point where they realize that you develop these young players, you invest in these 18, 19, 20-year olds, but eventually you've got to sell them to make $5 or $6 million to put that money back into the investment of developing the players, or going and buying better players so you can win a championship.
Definitely. And you are involved with the Colorado Rapids right now, and with the academy part. And how is the turn up for the academy? Like, is there the excitement because it's not the major sport? It's not very still. It's not the very sport. Like,
Um, it, it's getting there. The academy, we just had four players in the last. Yeah, Sammy Vines, who just signed a brand new contract, who's a starter for our first team. Cole Bassett, who's a starter now on and off for the first team that came for our academy. We just signed a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old who's going to turn 17. Darren Yappy, a center forward, 6'2", player that we just signed. We just signed a kid named Ali Laraz, a 6'8", plays in that position from the academy, who's been in our academy since he was 9 years old, to the first team homegrown contract. So it's getting there. It's getting there. Now it's, will they make an impact in the first team? And if they do, can you sell them? And that's at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to sell these guys off, let them go play and come back eventually. But again, it's a business. It's a business. So it's not easy. It's not easy because you see talent at 17, 18. Can that develop in the next 3 or 4 years with guys that are 26, 27, 28-year-olds? Can they hold their own? Can they step into an MLS game and be an impactful player over the next 5 to 6 years? So it's not easy looking for that talent, but I think if you put the kid in the environment, you let him mature, he'll have to get stronger mentally and physically. He has a chance, and that's what we're doing. We've been known now over the last 4 or 5 years here in Colorado to give younger players an opportunity to play, and I think we've signed 13 young homegrown since 2017.
that's amazing. Like, even as for the national team, like getting more players, having a bigger pool to select from probably in the longer run.
Uh, you know, uh, First step is getting them on the first team and getting them minutes and having them be consistent, because that's going to be the important part, because you can't be a professional having 2 good games and 4 bad games. So consistency, breaking into the starting lineup, is huge for us. Once they get into that starting lineup, then all of a sudden, the under 20 national team opens up, that door opens up. Maybe the under 23 Olympic team opens up. So the doors will open. It's just a matter of, are you willing to put in the work, and how will you develop over the next 2 to 3 years under your contract?
Definitely. And you said, like, how you are maybe particular about going to a place only if it fits your playing style.
Yeah.
Which formation or style did you enjoy playing in the most?
With my kids, we play a 4-3-3, because it allows the fullbacks to get into the attack a lot more. But again, it's like anything else. The formation's only as good as the players you have on the field. I can play a 3 system in the back, but if I don't have the players to play in the 3 in the back that are fast and strong and can read the game well, it doesn't make any sense. So we adjust a little bit depending on the types of players we have. Um, the philosophy, I think, is simple. you've got to find the players that can play in the system and understand the system that you want, but also you have to be able to let them show their personality. You can't, I don't want them to play so structured that they lose that personality they have. If one kid is a dribbler and he's fast, I want him to have that personality out on the field, but under the structure that we play in. Tuck in, when we lose the ball, close the middle. When we win it, open up and then go. So the important thing is how do you put a team together that's going to allow each kid to play under your tactical system, but also have the freedom to show their personality, because if you have to let them show that, because that's their smile, that's their joy out on the field. That's where they shine when they have the ball. And I don't want to take that away from them, but I want them to learn how to tactically defend in a system. So then when we do get it, we can open up and have some joy.
Definitely, definitely. And personally for you, did you have any system that you enjoyed playing in the most?
Listen, when we played in the era that we played three in the back, two-man markers and a sweeper. So completely different. I don't think you see anybody anymore playing with two man-to-man markers and a sweeper, because the teams are so athletic, the players are so athletic, that all of a sudden, if you do go man-to-man, the two forwards will go wide. All of a sudden now you leave a guy in the middle. So I've always enjoyed the 4-4-2. It allows the fullbacks, it allows two forwards to press, to be able to press the two center backs, and it forces the game wide. But that's what I've been used to playing. I've played in a 4-4-2 for probably 80% of my career, always four in the back. So that always made it a little more comfortable. One guy step, one guy cover, one guy cover. You know what I mean? So I would say for me, when I played, I like the 4-4-2. As a coach, I enjoy playing in a 4-4-3. I enjoy the freedom of the two fullbacks being able to get into the attack and be a bigger part of the game than when we played.
Again, this might be a very, very naive question, but which one do you prefer, playing or coaching?
Oh no, 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 no. If my brain still reacts as a player, I see things, I can move. Unfortunately, the rest of my body at 53 doesn't go as fast as my brain does. So I'll always pick playing. The freedom, the joy, the ability to just be so creative out on the field um, was spectacular. I can change a game as a player. I can move. I can make a pass. I can score off a corner. I can impact a game as a player, as an individual player, and as a team. As a coach, you can impact the game. You can make a sub. Maybe that impacts the game, but you're on the sideline. You've done your coaching. Your coaching goes from Tuesday to Friday. Come Saturday, no matter what I say, unless I make a sub, I can make a change that way. But it's very hard to change a game or to be impactful as a coach. So I'll always pick being a player before being a coach, because I enjoyed playing very much.
Definitely. So we have two more questions before we wrap up,
Yeah.
and the first of the two is, like, do you have any particular game in your career that still stands out for you?
I've played so many games, 128 games for the national team, and that doesn't include the other exhibition games. So I probably have somewhere near 175 to 200 games for the U.S. national team. So they were all meaningful because you represent your country. But I think it's like anything else. Probably the first time you put on the national team jersey in a World Cup, because putting on the national team jersey is always special. But to represent your country in the not just the biggest sporting event in the world, because there, besides cricket, I believe the World Cup is the second most watched game besides the cricket final. So to be able to put on that, because as a kid, as a soccer player, your dream, and you have so many of them, the goals that you want to reach, you want to be a professional, you want to do this, but the ultimate dream for us is to be able to put on a national team jersey and play in a World Cup, to represent your country in the biggest sporting event in the world. So walking in to the 90 World Cup and putting on that jersey and getting ready to play in your first World Cup was probably one of the most special moments in my career. And I can also go back to walking into Detroit, playing in the first World Cup, because you get to play in World Cups, but you don't always get to play them in your own country. I am an American World Cup player who played in the World Cup in the United States for the very first time the World Cup's ever been played in the United States. So when that hits you, when you're walking into the locker room in Detroit, you walk in, you see your number, you see your name, you're realizing you're getting ready to walk out in front of 60,000 American fans who have never, ever probably seen this team play, never even probably heard of what's soccer, what's the World Cup. So that pressure was something that we thrived off. So there's been a few games that have been extremely special to me.
Definitely, and of course, the World Cup being the first time being held there, or like at
Yep.
grand scale, would of course stand out.
Yep.
And like we'll wrap it up with one final question. And like, do you have any advice for any young player who's just starting out?
You know, that's a difficult one because everybody has a different path. Everybody wants to get from A to B in a straight line, and it's very small. It's very small percentage go from A to B that are that gifted. Um, God gives us all some sort of ability in life. If it's soccer and you've got a little bit of that spark, um, then you've got to put yourself in an environment that's going to challenge you every day. If you put yourself in an environment where you're the star and you're the best player and you're beating 6, 7, 8 guys to go score a goal, that's not developing. That's just cruising because you know you can do it at any time. You've got to put yourself and test yourself. Always put yourself in an environment where you're uncomfortable because the easiest path isn't always a straight one. It's the one off to the side. And we always seem to take the easiest path. So don't always take the easiest path. The easiest path is playing a 9-year-old, playing with 9-year-olds where he's the best player. He's outrunning everybody. That's great. He's the star right now. He's not developing. So put yourself in a position, put yourself on a team, put yourself in an environment that's going to challenge you every day, that makes you feel uncomfortable, because that uncomfortableness is what's making you better every day, because it's making you work harder. It's making you hungry. We've learned that the best players in life are the kids that are just hungry to make it, dying to make it. They have no other choice but to play and to make it as an athlete. And in soccer, in any sport, it's that hunger, it's that drive that makes you better. Put yourself in an environment like that, and you'll develop a lot quicker. And
Definitely,
never give up. And never give up. You
and I
can't give
think
up. If you have a dream, never give up.
I think that is general like advice, not only for maybe soccer, it's for all walks of life. Like put
Yeah.
yourself in difficult
Yeah.
situations so that you grow, maybe
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like on that one, Master, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors, and hope to talk to you again soon. Till then, take care, stay safe.